thank you, Nola. Sean, are you on the call? Sean, are you on the meeting?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
All right, you go ahead, Sean.
Sure, I'll start. Thank you, Chair Butler-Byrd, for the time here, and I'll keep this brief. I want to start out by defining Respondus Monitor for those who are not familiar. This is a piece of software that is kind of the technological equivalent of having a TA in the room. It essentially uses the camera, much like Zoom is here, to observe the students during the test taking. So in no way does this report indicate that the participants and the faculty and students here indicated were accused of any kind of academic dishonesty. This is actually a tool that faculty use to avoid academic dishonesty and to mitigate that. So you should be able to see my screen now. This is Respondus Monitor data going back 4 academic years. And obviously our focus is on the 2019 to 2021 time period. So those 2 academic years. You can see that starting in the 2019-20 period, and that was obviously in March that faculty pivoted to virtual instruction, we did see an uptick across these 4 domains: courses, instructors, students, and test sessions, utilizing Respondus Monitor. And that peaked the following academic year in 2020, 2021 with, and I'll go across here on that row here in the spreadsheet, 365 courses, 142 instructors, 22,438 students, and a total of 156,770 test sessions. The following year, the 2021-22 academic year, those domains all returned to about baseline of what they were before the pandemic. So you can see those domains broken out here. And again, this is just utilization based on instructors implementing this into their exam strategy.
And I would just add to what Sean has shared, good afternoon, everyone, that Sean, Mike Borstrom, and I have worked on language to go into the faculty handbook updated to, remind folks that faculty can only use Respondus Monitor with the direct permission of their dean, and to remind our colleagues of the significant privacy and equity concerns associated with Respondus Monitor. And also to remind everybody that, as one of our colleagues in the College of Engineering shared at our last Senate meeting, there is virtually no tech fix that guarantees the academic integrity of your exam. Our students have already apparently found a way to code around Respondus lockdown browser. So, we're including that advisory in the faculty handbook and encouraging folks to consult the excellent resources available at ITS and CTL to move towards frequent low stakes assessments and other slightly more integrity supportive pedagogies. Thanks.
Thank you for the additional context, Joanna. And Chair Butler-Byrd, do we want to hear from Director Mintz before we take questions?
Yes, we would.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for letting me be here. My name is Lee Mintz. I'm the director of the Center for Student Rights and Responsibilities. So we work with students who are accused of engaging in academic dishonesty. I'm going to share my screen quickly. I do have additional breakdowns if anyone's interested, but in the interest of time, this is the information related to academic dishonesty cases reported both before, during, and after remote learning. You'll see that actually, surprisingly, in 2021, we did not have the highest number of reported academic dishonesty cases. That was the year before. The top line represents how many total cases were reported for academic dishonesty in that academic year. Beneath that would be the number of students found responsible, and beneath that is the number of students found not responsible. On average, with all throughout the entire student code of conduct, the referrals for all different types of potential policy violations, we do have approximately a 30% rate of students not having a preponderance of evidence to find students responsible for violating policy, and that remains consistent with our academic dishonesty policy referrals. If anyone's ever interested, I do have additional information on potentially why students would not be found responsible for violating policy after referral to the Center for Student Rights and Responsibilities. But this is sort of the breakdown, again, both before, during, and after remote learning during COVID stay at home.
Okay, thank you for your report. And I do see one hand up for questions, but I'm also noting that it's 4:23. And so I would like to entertain a motion to perhaps extend our meeting a little bit more. I know there is one item, our Staff Affairs Committee, the Staff Emeritus nominations that we do need to deal with today so that those can move forward. And the rest of our items have to do with policies. So I'm wondering if I could get a motion to extend the meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, for how many minutes?
15.
15 minutes? Okay,
Second.
thank you. Thank you for the second. Is there any dissent to extend the meeting by 15 minutes? Seeing none, it's unanimously consented. Okay, thank you very much. Sandy, your hand was up. I'm sorry, Senator McCamey.
Yes, thank you. With needing direct approval from deans to utilize Respondus, is there any oversight to ensure that they actually do get approval? Because I have seen cases where there's newer faculty that I just know they most likely don't know that you need to do that. So is that communicated? And then if so, how is it ensured that they do follow that protocol?
Joanne, I can answer on our end. So at Instructional Technology Services, we've advised our support team to inform the instructor that that is required and ask if they have received permission from their dean. We do not ask for evidence of that. We just ask for affirmation from the instructor.
Yeah, I would just add, Sandy, thanks for raising the question. There's just a couple colleges in which we're aware of Monitor currently being used. And so it might be a good idea, thanks to your question, to refresh awareness with our deans and faculty in those colleges. So we'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Senator Henschel.
Thank you. Two quick questions. One for Lee Mintz. I'm wondering if you can briefly describe the process that occurs when an instructor submits a report of alleged academic dishonesty to CSSR. There are times when I've submitted reports and I've gotten a fairly quick email acknowledgement that the report's been received, and other times I don't even get that acknowledgement. Sometimes there's some follow-up later, sometimes there's not. And then another question for VP Brooks. You commented that low stakes assessments are less prone to academic dishonesty. My experience has been that, especially in my large classes and especially with online assessments, cheating by students using websites, I won't name them because I don't want to give ideas. Students can also Google how to get around lockdown browser, so can faculty. And my experience has been that at low stakes assessments, it's more common. It's actually routine. Depends on the assessment, of course, but that doesn't seem to be a magic bullet either in my experience. And I'm wondering if the Center for Students' Rights and Responsibilities has data specific to SDSU on how many reports have been received for academic dishonesty for low stakes assessments versus high stake assessments.
Lee, you want to go first?
Sure, thank you for the question. So it is our process that whenever we receive a referral for academic dishonesty, that we do acknowledge that. I appreciate the feedback. If that has not been happening consistently, then I definitely will follow up on that. So thank you for that information. In general, whenever a student is referred to the Center for Student Rights and Responsibilities, an investigation ensues, which is a combination of looking at documentation that's been submitted, language on a syllabus, for example. In addition, we frequently will also reach out to the instructor that referred the matter to us to see if there's additional information that maybe is not quite coming across to us in written form. We also, several months ago, I implemented sort of a relatively new procedure, whereas if it is seeming like we may not have a preponderance of evidence to find a student responsible, that we do again reach out to the faculty to see if there's again sort of anything that we're not understanding, and to have a discussion with the faculty member about why at that point it's looking like we don't have a preponderance of evidence. As far as breaking down into more specific types of academic dishonesty, we have not done that. And so we would be able to do that. I just wouldn't be able to provide information on that now, but that is something that I can look towards doing in the future. You know, I think that just like every other department and area and person on this campus, right? We weren't expecting COVID. We weren't expecting, you know, all of a sudden we're sort of complete remote learning. So I think lessons learned, but we scrambled to sort of figure out how can we collect any data, not necessarily knowing what data would be helpful in the future.
And I would just add, Brian, real quick, like there is a very voluminous body of research and discussion around how exactly different kinds of assessments and different kinds of pedagogical designs can influence student choices around academic integrity. I'm going to put in the chat real quick some of the good resources that Sarah Elkind, who was the director of Center for Teaching and Learning during the height of the pandemic, developed that address some of these questions. I agree with you 100%. There is no single answer. And this is something we're going to be working out the rest of our professional lives.